Welcome back, Scissors and Scrubs. I'm Nicole.
I'm Laura.
And this episode, for no reason, grossed me out.
Well, not for no reason. It's
too
pretty
grosses
gross.
me out. It's just gross.
Yeah.
It's just gross. And it's not like maggot gross. It's like creepy gross. It's like
It makes you feel yucky.
It makes you feel yucky. Yeah. It really does. Yeah. Okay. So what we are talking about is IVF. And we're not saying IVF is yucky at all.
No.
So if you've had IVF, we're not saying you're yucky. It's
the stories.
Some of the stories we have of things that went wrong during IVF.
Just leave you feeling bad.
Yeah, a little disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
So Laura is going to start the episode.
We did this because someone told us about this terrible story.
One of them.
I don't remember who told us about this, but it was awful. So then that's how we dove into this.
You should hear the way we come up with episodes. They're very random.
I got these I'm doing 2 articles, and one's from the New York Times and one's from the Times of Israel.
Oh, lovely.
So the first story, in 2019, Daphne and Alexander Cardinal of LA gave birth to a little girl, May. However, they had a DNA test done because May, who they conceived through IVF, did not resemble either parent. And they're like, I don't know how. I mean, she must have really not resembled either parent.
They're both blonde, blue eyes.
Yeah.
She's got dark curly hair.
So the DNA test confirmed the 2-month-old May was not the biological child of either of these parents.
That's a fine how do you do.
Yeah. So Daphne and Alexander hired an attorney that discovered the biological parents were a couple that lived 10 minutes away, who had also had a daughter named Zoe, who was the same age, that was conceived through IVF at the same clinic.
And looks just like them.
The clinic had mistakenly swapped the couple's embryos.
Oof.
The 2 couples met and chose to work together to switch the babies back to the biological families.
To be honest with you, at 2 months, I don't know if the kid would even realize what the hell happened.
I know, but I think you must feel bad. Like I don't have that baby. Like, you know, that's the baby.
I want them both.
I carried them and I gave birth to them. And then you're like, oh, here you go. Like, I would feel.
The whole thing would be weird to me.
Baby would know? No, but the parent, like, can you imagine? Like, I just held you every night.
You have another baby in your hands.
And it's not the baby you've known. I don't know.
How do you do this, though? Does it tell you?
Yeah. So they met. They were very like, this is awful, blah, blah. Let's work together.
There should be a therapist involved with this.
I'm sure there was a bunch of stuff. They formalized the switch through the courts weeks later. Mm-hmm. Like they didn't, wait years. They did it weeks later. However, both families really struggled to adjust. And they decided, we're going to raise these girls together.
Which I think is sweet.
4 adults, the 2 kids, they're going to raise them together. Then coronavirus happened. So they formed a pod. People were doing those pods. So they formed a pod.
We had our own pod, Laura.
Yeah. During Corona and Corona. And then they had a ceremony to merge the families. So like these kids, everybody's just kind of one big family. Luckily, the families had similar financial situations. Not like one was really poor and one was really rich. Like they were equal financially.
Imagine if one was really poor and one was like loaded.
I know. They also had similar parenting styles, so it wasn't like hard. When one's like, "Oh, we're just gonna spoil you rotten," and one's like, "You're gonna knock at one thing." Like
they're paying for everything.
Yeah, they had similar parenting styles, so they could get along and raise these kids like in a similar fashion. The girls spend holidays together, birthdays together. They went to the same preschool, but they do now attend different schools for kindergarten for whatever reason. The Cardinal family sued the California Center for Reproductive Health and settled for an undisclosed amount in 2022.
That's a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
That's a big fucking deal.
I just can't, like you said, like 2 months, the baby's not going to know the difference. As long as someone's loving it and taking care of it, they're never going to know, but I can't fathom you're just giving this baby.
But I would think getting one that looks like you somewhat would be a little more like, feel right. I think getting your own, but I don't know. Because that would, adoption, it feels right too. So I don't know.
I just feel like you gay. I don't know. Right. Like you've been with that baby since the second it was born and then you carried it away.
You carried it for 9 months.
I can't fathom
wowzers.
That. So then this one is from the Times of Israel. A family court in Israel ruled this November that the genetic parents of a 2-year-old born in a 2022 IVF mix-up are the child's legal parents and ordered that she be removed from the custody of the parents that birthed and raised her and given to the parents whose DNA she shares.
This would be worse.
The mix-up was discovered when the baby was in utero because the baby needed extensive testing for serious medical conditions while in utero. Those tests determined that neither the woman carrying the baby nor her partner could be the biological parents.
So the baby's ill?
Yes.
Oh.
Medical records were reviewed when they realized these people aren't the biological parents. Medical records were reviewed. Staff at the IVF clinic were interviewed, and it was determined that the mix-up occurred when the birth mother and the biological mother were in the waiting area of the clinic at the same time and went in for embryo transfers in the wrong order. So they were both getting embryo transfers the same day.
Why did they go in the wrong order?
I don't know if they called them in wrong, if they, or like, you came in the wrong room. I don't know. The staff was like, that's what they discovered. They must have called them in the wrong time. They gave one mother an embryo. Obviously, she didn't carry it to birth. And then this woman, they implanted her and she carried it to birth. A probe showed significant breaches in protocol due to heavy workload at the IVF clinic. The clinic was ordered to reduce its operations by 50%, going from 10,000 fertilization treatments a year to 5,000 per year.
10,000's a lot.
A lot. So I'm sure it's like boom, boom, boom. The judge decided the baby should be with the biological parents instead of the parents that have raised her for 2 years and have nursed her through serious illness and several major surgeries based on the recommendations of a psychiatrist that stated that the benefits of her being raised by biological parents outweighs the damage of removing her from the parents that have raised her.
Why?
I don't know. Because they were saying that's her family, that's her genes.
But that would rule out anybody who's adopted a child.
Right, that's what I don't understand.
I'm like, that's bullshit.
Yeah. The couple that birthed and raised the baby intend to appeal the decision, saying, quote, "As a mother, I don't understand how they can tear my daughter from me after I birthed her with blood, sweat, and tears. She is the fruit of my womb, and I've been raising her for more than 2 years. As far as I'm concerned, I'll wait until justice is done at the high court. I am Sophia's mother," that's the baby's name, "and she is a sweet girl who only months ago underwent a third life-threatening surgery. I'm not a womb for rent, and with all my grief for the woman who gave the egg, she didn't make the child. I was implanted with the embryo, carried her, and gave birth to her, and I will not allow my daughter to be uprooted from me. It's inhumane. I won't lend a hand in risking my daughter's life." The biological parents are obviously thrilled with this decision. They're celebrating the verdict, and they say they are waiting for the hug that they have been waiting on for so long.
Yeah, but the kid's not going to hug them. It may be a while before the kid hugs them like that.
I feel terrible for the biological parents. I feel terrible for them.
Right.
But and I'm not saying, but she obviously was implanted with other embryos and
it didn't
carry. So maybe this one wouldn't have either. And now this is, this woman was able to carry the embryo, and I think you should somehow be involved in them. It's too bad they can't do something like that those other families, and be like, oh yeah,
we're all together.
We're all together. You can come all the time. You can pick her up from school. You can be involved in her life. But these people raised her.
A lot of gray areas are happening with all this stuff.
It's awful. And I'm like, awful. And this little girl's 2. And I'm sure it's been going on since they've known about it since she was in utero.
Right.
But I
don't understand, if they knew since it was in your utero, why did it wait 2 years?
But that's what maybe they just finally made a decision.
Or they should have given the woman carrying it the option to do whatever she was going to do. And then the birth parent, the biological parents maybe take that baby at birth.
Right.
And you figure out how you compensate the woman who just surrogate your kid.
Right. It's just awful. That whole story is awful.
Sticky. It's getting sticky. Not
just
to use
makes
the word
me feel
sticky during sperm, but it's getting sticky.
It just feels terrible, and
it's terrible,
icky and wrong.
But there's no clear lines. There's no clear right.
No, because I could see like someone else be going, no, imagine if your baby was implanted into another woman, wouldn't you want them back? Now, of course I would. Of course I would. But
there's no clear lines here.
How do you
makes it tough?
You'd have to be like that first couple. You would hope to God you could be like that first couple and just work together and everybody can be in their lives. And it's awful. 2
years.
Yeah.
Well, to get into an even more sticky situation, Laura, we're going to talk about more IVF issues. So, in the 1970s and 80s, you wanted IVF. You couldn't go to a sperm bank. You didn't go online, pick out the color eyes and all that. You got an anonymous donor. Usually these anonymous donors were med students that the doctors would be like...
They didn't give you any information on them?
You might have gotten some, but you didn't really know much about who you were getting. It was much different when because this is like the beginning days of IVF. Yeah. So and like I said, most of these anonymous donors were med students. So it's fairly new. Sperm donors are anonymous. Many women were treated this way in the 80s and 70s, and late 70s, early 80s. And then eventually sperm banks come around, and we know a couple who just had a baby and they had pictures.
It's like a dating website now. Exactly. Like you go on and you're like, no, like
this one because he was so handsome and he was da-da-da-da-da. They want smart people.
They get pictures of their baby pictures.
Yes, it's crazy. So now it's the early 2000s. I don't even know when 23andMe came out, but now these genetic websites are popping up. These DNA websites have been a blessing and a curse on so many levels.
They're opening up a whole lot of can of worms.
Ooh, you're finding murderers, you're finding babies, you're finding daddies, and it is insane what is going on with these. So it's helping you find unknown family members, all kinds of stuff. So this Jacoba Ballard, she decides, I'm going to put my DNA in. I think she's like 40 when she does this. She learned she has 7 siblings.
Wow.
She's like, I have 7 siblings. So she reaches out to her 7 siblings.
Did she know she was an IVF baby?
It doesn't say if she knew she was an IVF baby. Because it did say when I was saying they encouraged the women to not say these were IVF babies. So if you were conceived IVF late 70s, early 80s, you were encouraged for the child to believe that that was their biological father. So a lot of these women never told these kids that they were IVF babies. Or as we called them, test tube babies in the 80s.
Yeah, we did.
Test tube babies. Remember that? You're a test tube baby.
Oh, the first test tube baby turned 20 today. Why would we do that?
Because it was the 80s and we said some weird shit back then. All right?
Yep.
So they all start talking and they realize they all have the same father, who happens to be Dr. Donald Klein, the IVF specialist all their mothers went to. So this turns into a Netflix special called Our Father.
Oh, yeah.
All right. That's where this comes. I didn't get my information from that. I got this from articles. I'll read them at the end, but I did not get a chance because I'm not organized to watch this, but this is a summary of it. So in 1979, Dr. Donald Klein opens a fertility clinic in Indianapolis, and he begins treating patients. He had, he told the woman the sperm were coming from anonymous donors, but he was actually using his own, and I don't know why this grossed me out, his own fresh sperm.
Well, because it's the word fresh.
It's fresh. You know he was jacking off right there in the dish. Yes, there you go. It's the all fresh set.
That does it.
And he did this.
Technically, it was an anonymous donor.
Technically, 50 times.
It was an anonymous donor.
So he, his justification is, and it is true at the time, is fresh sperm had a higher success rate than frozen sperm. Just all of this is grossing me out. So he just used his own, and he fathered. At the time of this article, they had found 48 children. Jesus. He had done it apparently 50 times. When I finished up in another article, I think there's 94 kids in just Indianapolis that he fathered between 1979 and 1986.
Jesus.
Now, what is the problem when you father?
Well, because they can date each other.
They're all in the same age group. Which
in the same area. They all live in the same area.
And you have a lot in common with your DNA. So you're going to date and you're going to have some weird kid with fucking weird shit on them because the bloodline's too pure. Okay, so anyway. So as I said, this story became the special Our Father. Jacoba Bullard would cringe every time her 23andMe inbox would pop in because as the database was getting popular and more people are submitting their DNA, she's getting more siblings.
Right.
So she's like, I hated it because every time they would pop up, I knew I was going to call and ruin somebody's life. Hey, we all have the same father. Did your mom get IVF? Guess what? Mine did too. He just inseminated all of Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So in Indiana, it is not a crime for a doctor to do this. Okay. He could use his own sperm. It is unethical to do this.
Yeah.
And it violates the patient's rights of informed consent because they have the right to know where the sperm is coming from. And like if they say anonymous, if you know Dr. Klein, he is not anonymous. Right. Okay. So the only crime that they could get him on was lying to the state investigators. Because initially he's like, no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. And then he's like, no, I did. I did it like 100 times.
I mean, you can't, how can you say there's DNA? Like it's your DNA.
Right. So that got him a suspended sentence of a year in jail. So he's done no time. He's living his life like jolly old king. So he is kind of a nut.
You think?
He's kind of a nut. And so he, in his early years, had accidentally hit and killed a young girl with his car. After that, he joins a religious cult called Quiverful, like a quiver of arrows. Quiverful, okay? It is an extreme Christian sect. They encourage followers, quote, to reproduce as proficiently as possible to meet God's mandate to be fruitful and multiply. Pretty sure God didn't say be fruitful and multiply 100 times. Yeah. Okay. And people also wonder if there isn't a bit of Aryan, what is it? What was that Hindenburg practiced it? There was a term that they did when they would seek out just the blonde and the blue eyes and they'd get rid of any kid with any kind of eugenics or something. Yeah. Because all of these kids are blonde hair and blue eyes. All of them. So now that could be just coincidence. I don't know what he looks like. And maybe the mothers, or maybe he specifically only chose mothers that were blonde hair. I don't know. So he would have his staff like pray before they do things. He would tell parents, pray on those decisions when you go home. There's Bible verses all over the office and everything. Like he's really into this religious kind of thing. And his justification is, well, they got babies, didn't they? It worked. They got what they wanted. Yeah, well, they didn't want your baby, you asshole. Right. So many victims are looking for criminal charges to be brought against him because they feel like they were raped. Like one woman's like, I felt like I was raped 15 times. And the state's like, we can't get him on rape. Like that's not happening. So they said they could possibly be damages for emotional stress, depending on the jurisdiction. And right now he's out doing he might even be dead now, but he was out doing his business and just living his dream with 100 children out there, which is disturbing. Yeah. But is he the only one, Laura? No, probably not. He's not the only one. A Texas obstetrician and an OBGYN, Kim Maurice, avoided investigation by his state medical board and was able to continue practicing until his retirement despite of admitting fathering several of his patients' children, at least 10 of whom were linked to him by tests. They board rules barred it from investigating allegations for more than 7 years. Like if this was more than 7 years old, we're not investigating. Yep. His biological daughter, Eve, lobbied the state legislature, calling herself the product of fertility fraud. So this is where they're all going with this now, because you're going to hear fertility fraud brought up again and again, and asking lawmakers to change the medical board's mandate in future cases. They complied, and Texas is one of 7 states to criminalize sperm fraud by fertility doctors. The fact that we have to do this, that there's more than one out there doing it's disgusting. It will henceforth be treated there as a sexual assault, requiring registration as a sexual offender. Yep. So we have a Sarah Depoian. She filed a federal lawsuit in Massachusetts when Dr. Merle Berger, a former professor at Harvard Med School, used his own sperm to impregnate her in 1980 after promising that the sperm would come from an anonymous donor. So to me, that's criminal because you lied. You lied. And she did not know. and he is denying all the claims. A doctor at the University of Washington, Dr. Christopher Herndon, he surrendered his medical license last month after one of his former patients accused him of secretly fathering one of her children. An Idaho woman filed in October that she visited Dr. David Claypool in Spokane, Washington in 1989 and was assured a sperm donor would be chosen on traits that she selected. But 33 years later, when her daughter did 23andMe, the tests came back that he was her father. In Vermont, they sued Dr. John Boyd Coates III for the second time, accusing him of trying to avoid paying the $2.2 million judgment that this woman won against him for damages wrought from the conception of her daughter for more than 40 years ago. She learned her father was her father through DNA testing. And there has now been a second, because he's not paying, they've tacked on another $100,000. Dr. Morris Wortman, terrible name, he's a prominent New York fertility doctor. He died in May while his lawsuit was pending against him that he claimed he used his sperm to impregnate several women in the 80s. The daughter of one of his former patients found she had at least 9 half-siblings using 23andMe. So like I said, some states in Texas have passed laws that are fixing this. It looks like Michigan and Washington are also trying, and I think this should be national because this should not be an option. And I don't imagine it's still happening, but it could.
I mean, it could, but I'm not obviously defending any of this, but they probably never thought in their lives, like, oh, these kids are going to put their DNA in something and then pop up. You know what I mean? Like
in the 80s, DNA wasn't even a thing.
No, you know, like, so they probably just, well, no one's going to know about it. Not that that's okay, but now people know, like, people are going to put their DNA in systems.
You had to have known, fathering 94 kids in one area, that they could meet and marry.
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm not saying, I'm saying all that.
Like, no, I know.
I'm saying they probably wouldn't do it anymore because there is all this DNA testing. Yeah.
One of them, I can't find the article. I was looking for it earlier. One of them was saying that the man fathered the daughter, unbeknownst to the mother, and would always ask the mother, like, how's she doing? Oh, she's in college. Oh, great. And then that daughter went to him as her GYN, which is on every level unethical. That's disgusting. Your father giving you a GYN. That's an assault. And he knows it.
That's
exactly.
An assault.
It's disgusting.
The other things, I'm like, I don't know that it's something.
I think these guys, in some weird way, got off and knowing that they had that many kids out there. I swear to God.
Probably.
And these women didn't have any clue.
Like that superiority complex, like, oh, they're just going to be glad,
that they have babies,
that I'm giving them a healthy, and obviously my bloodline is going to be healthy, whatever, you know.
It's just, it's disgusting.
That is disgusting.
Did you say we have an email?
We do have an email. Also, we have someone at work that came in and was like, oh, I listened to your latest episode. I'm like, oh, yeah? And I'm like, I don't even know which one she's talking about. And then she's like, I eat jellied meat. And I was like, whoa. And she's like,
and she said it like we caught her in the middle of a crime. She's like, I eat jelly. It's not fish, but it's chicken. It's jelly.
And they make pork and chicken, but I don't like the pork. That's disgusting. But the chicken is delicious. It's like my favorite thing to eat. I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, I know you guys were like gagging. I'm like, I'm still gagging. It's disgusting. And I was like, well, next time you have it,
send us a picture.
She goes, I've actually brought it in before. And I'm like, oh my God. So if you ever bring it in, I'm not trying it, but I do want to see it.
I want to smell it.
I kind of want to smell it, but I'm kind of afraid to smell it. But I at least want to see it. And I was like, but even if you don't bring it in, just next time you get it, send me a picture.
One of my friends send me in. I think I've seen the video before, so I didn't watch it, but I think it's that fish that with the lye and showing people opening the can and trying to eat it. And they're vomiting because of the smell.
To.
Like, if it makes a grown man vomit, what would possess anybody else in the world to eat it?
Eat it. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't understand that.
I don't either. I just thought it was funny. She's like, I eat jelly meat.
Yeah, she looked like such a criminal when she said it. Like, oh, I should have looked down. Like, I eat that. Like, oh.
And then people that just like there was a bunch of people there and they didn't know. And she was like, they were like jellied meat. I'm like, I know. It's terrible.
I mean, technically, is Spam jellied meat?
I don't know. I don't eat that Spam either.
No, it's cooked, right? It's spongy. And you have to scrape jelly off of it.
I think that's just preservatives.
Yeah. I mean, my father was such a culinary genius. He'd fry Spam for us when my mother would go out, so we'd beg her not to go out because it was Spam sandwiches for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I like Spam because it's so salty and I love it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anyways, all right, this is the email we got. A Christmas cat story. My favorite.
My kitties. Meow, meow, meow.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I've reached out once before with a long list of ideas for you guys.
She's the Sarah. One who's I know exactly. We're still using them.
I was listening to your Christmas episode this year and heard you talking about cats jumping into Christmas trees. I also have 3 cats. The youngest we bottle fed as a kitten. He is 3 this year. He's always jumped into Christmas trees and liked to sit there like it's a perch. I always yell at him and shoo him out of the tree. Last year, the tree, with pre-attached lights, was put up for maybe 5 minutes. I went to the bathroom and suddenly I was hearing this terrible screaming sound from the living room.
Which when a cat makes that sound, it is awful.
I would probably cry.
It's awful.
I come back and the cat is dangling from the tree like an ornament. At first, I thought a branch broke and had impaled him, and the branch was inside his skin parallel to his bone. Turns out he just had his foot tangled between the branch and the lighting cords. He bit me approximately 7 times while I tried to free him.
Asshole.
And there was blood everywhere. And
That's
I didn't.
Cats. I'm sorry, but they're assholes. I love them, but they're assholes.
I would have left him. And I didn't know if it was my blood or his blood or what. It was traumatizing for me and him. Turns out I was more injured from the fiasco than he was. He was completely fine physically, and I didn't get sick from the bites, luckily. Anyways, if you want to do an episode about cat bites or zoonotic illnesses or something, if you haven't already, I guess the story is related. Otherwise, I hope it at least made you chuckle like you guys often make me. Thanks, Sarah. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Doing
we worked with this one woman. I love her to death. She was one of the oldies but goodies, but she had cat scratch fever twice. Yep. She had Guillain-Barré. She had been struck by lightning. Yeah. Like, she'd call out and you were like, what is it going to be now? And
the bubonic plague.
Yeah, so I just came down with a case of the bubonic plague and I followed it up with some cat scratch fever. So I'll be out for a month and a half and, she'd come back and then you'd be like, so I was outside gardening and I got struck by lightning. And then on the way in, the roof fell on me and you'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah, but I loved her because she used to tell me I had porcelain skin.
Porcelain.
She
was a character.
Look at that skin. It's porcelain.
She's one of the women, like, I'd go in the locker room and sometimes, I don't know, this is going to get controversial, but I'm going to do it.
Oh, God.
Some people change in the locker room. They got nothing on underneath. Like, they are in their birthday suit and you don't expect it sometimes. And our locker room is big. We have a lot of nurses. 99.9% of them are wearing clothing when they're changing. And I mean like bras and underwear.
Even like you take your shirt off and put your shirt on. And then you take your pants off and put your pants. You don't take your shirt off and your pants off and just stand there.
And you'd come into the locker room and she had a copious amount of chest and she'd be talking to you and I'd be like, oh. And she has like, she had an old-fashioned gallbladder scar. I should have this scar. And I'm like, oh my God. I can't. That's like looking at your mother naked. I'm like, can I go? I gotta go. I
can't have a conversation.
Like, so anyway, and she'd be talking to me, buck ass, nothing on.
Yeah. There was quite a few of them that used to do that.
There's quite a few of them. You turn around, there's shit in your face. And I just don't expect it from the people I know. And now I can't look at you the same because I've seen your gallbladder scar. Yes. So I love you.
I just find it odd that they take off both pieces.
Everything. Well, some of them, this is one of them. I love you to death too. You know who you are. Would put the bra on after work.
Yeah.
Wouldn't those scrubs are chafy?
I always thought
nipple chafe going on.
Aren't you bleeding?
Yes.
That's what it felt. Yeah.
Yes.
They're not soft.
No. So why would you put the bra on out? Like, why did you take it off for that? I don't.
Must have been too uncomfortable.
I'm sure people are going to write in and be like, well, I wear this. And I like, but.
How do you change your scrubs? Yeah. Do you take your top off, then put your home shirt on, and then take your scrub pants off with just home pants on? Or do you take it all off at once?
If I'm talking to somebody and they start to change, I turn my back. Yeah. I don't need to see your business. No. I turn my back.
I stand around the corner from your locker when I talk to you.
Yeah, that's all. And I know we see people naked all the time, but it's not people I know. And I don't want to see people I know.
And for no reason.
Yeah. And you're talking to me. Yeah. Okay. So, that's how we're going to end this episode.
IVF and how do you change your scrubs?
And how do you change your scrubs? I mean, it all goes together, right? Yeah. Naked, sperms, it's everywhere. We're looking for ideas always, and we love the emails. Send them in.
Yes, please.
Spread the word about the podcast this year. I'm motivated this year. Let's get this. Let's get the numbers up. All Laura.
Right.
Maybe like I keep threatening we're going to get back on social media like with the videos. We will. I got to get some good content. We got to get some good content.
You do keep threatening.
I do.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. We're doing really good there for a while.
Yeah.
We're pretty popular. Yeah. All right. Enjoy. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.
Bye.
Like, subscribe, rate, and review the Scissors and Scrubs podcast on whatever podcast app you listen to us on. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Scissors and Scrubs. And email us any of your stories or thoughts to scissorsandscrubs@gmail.com.